Brain health has been very popular in the news lately, and this podcast is for you if you've ever had brain fog, cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, CTE, any of these issues. This is the podcast where we're going to jump into the latest research from Dr. Dale Bredesen, Dr. Daniel Amen, Dave Asprey of the Bulletproof Diet, so many other people, all the minds that are really out there paving the way, blazing a path for new research, new strategies that are actually working to get your brain optimized and working at its highest level. The Brain Builders podcast is just for you. So get a notebook, get a pen, and get ready to open up your mind and get back to the person that you were meant to be. Hello, and welcome to the Brain Builders podcast. I am your host, Dr. John DeWitt, and today we're going to jump back in to Dave Asprey's book on Headstrong, the Bulletproof Plan to Activate Untapped Brain Energy to Work Smarter and Think Faster in just 2 weeks. It's going to be exciting. We're talking more about ketosis. And let's just get right into it. Lots of people have tried to hack long-term fasting with a technique called intermittent fasting. This means you eat all of your food within a specific window of time, 6 or 8 hours, and fast the rest of the day, 16 to 18 hours. This is an effective way to cycle in and out of ketosis while remaining well-fed, and it's been proven to have plenty of other brain benefits, such as increasing neurogenesis. The downside to intermittent fasting is that it causes energy slumps. Most intermittent fasting protocols require you to skip breakfast and not eat lunch until after 2 p.m. When Dave Asprey tried this, he found that his brain energy took a deep dive in the middle of his workday, right when he really needed to bring the power. He wondered if there was a way to get the benefits of ketosis and intermittent fasting without crashing. He had already created Bulletproof Coffee at that point and knew how it made him feel, if not all of the reasons why. It was inspired by the polyphenol-rich yak butter tea that Tibetans drink in the morning before meditation, and it evolved to become a careful blend of brain octane oil, which I love personally, grass-fed butter, and coffee brewed with special processed beans free of mitochondria-inhibiting toxins. Coffee is a great source of polyphenols, but it often has mold toxins that slow down your mitochondria. So he created a new process to make coffee without the risk of mold toxins like normal coffee and decided to combine it with grass-fed butter and brain octane oil. Grass-fed butter gave him the anti-inflammatory butyrate, and brain octane oil helped put him in a mild state of ketosis. Turns out that this combination gave him what his brain needed most and without any protein or sugar, so that his body thought it was fasting. He tried Bulletproof Coffee in the morning during an intermittent fast, and voila, he felt all the benefits of the fast, but with much more energy than ever before. When he drinks a cup of Bulletproof Coffee in the morning instead of eating breakfast, his body remains in fasting mode, yet he feels satiated and energized. Hundreds of thousands of people have tried it now, and many feel the same thing. The brain octane oil puts him into a mild form of ketosis, even if he eats some carbs the night before. Polyphenol in coffee fight inflammation, support new brain cells, and feed more good bacteria in his gut. And the butyrate in the grass-fed butter protects his blood-brain barrier while continuing to feed the good gut bacteria. It also helps make the polyphenols from the coffee more bioavailable, and it doesn't contain the milk protein that locks polyphenols away from his brain. It is safe to say that this has been the most life-changing nutritional performance he has ever experienced. Most important hack. So the best part is that the fat from the butter and the brain octane oil shuts off his food cravings as quickly as flipping a switch. With his inner Labrador calmly resting at his feet, he's able to focus for hours at a time with a new level of intensity that powers him through the day. He is not the least bit interested in food, but his cells still believe he is fasting. He believes that there is truly no better, faster, or more effective way to become headstrong. If you don't believe him, all you have to do is try it one time. Coffee made with the right beans, brain octane oil, and grass-fed butter. The difference is like night and day. The truth is that you can make plain butter coffee with any old beans, any old butter, and coconut or MCT oil, but the science says you'll also get mitochondrial inhibiting toxins, some of the wrong fats, and far fewer ketones. And experience says you won't feel as headstrong as you could. The benefits of Bulletproof Coffee will go a long way toward optimizing your brain. Here are the key head points. Don't forget these three things. Polyphenols are antioxidants that protect your gut, increase your rate of neurogenesis, play a role in apoptosis, and lower inflammation. And your body needs fats to absorb them. Number 2, you need certain nutrients to make the most important neurotransmitters for your brain. The best foods for this include beef, almonds, eggs, lamb, and wild salmon. Number 3, your mitochondria make energy more efficiently with ketones than they do with glucose. So here are the 3 things you need to do right now. Always eat low-sugar fruits and veggies with a healthy fat source such as grass-fed butter. Eat more fish to get plenty of essential fatty acids for your brain, and use brain octane oil or restrict carbohydrates so your brain has access to ketones. So now here's very important, brain-inhibiting foods. So it's good to eat the right things, but it's just as good to avoid the wrong things. So you know that the foods you eat can help to fuel your brain, and increase your performance, which is great news because it means that the tools to building a supercharged brain are well within your reach. But just as your food choices can enhance your mental power, they can also hurt it. Some of the foods you eat every day are actually damaging your neurons, making your mitochondria less efficient, slowing your cellular energy production, fueling inflammation, and making you feel cranky, distracted, forgetful, and foggy, sometimes all at once. And you probably don't even know what's happening. The whole point of eating food is to provide our bodies with the energy they need to fuel all of your bodily systems, especially the organ that consumes the most energy, the brain. We're learning more every day about the biology of energy production, but one thing we know for sure right now is that certain foods actually rob your body of energy, and we can use that knowledge to start feeling a lot more headstrong today. Inflammatory foods. As we discussed earlier, some foods cause inflammation by irritating the lining of the gut and triggering your immune system to attack healthy cells. These foods will always have a negative impact on your brain. When the mitochondria are inflamed, the electron transport chain becomes elongated and it takes more time for electrons to move through the chain. The result is that you become less efficient at producing energy. Your performance suffers and you have less of the energy it takes to be yourself. It's as simple as that. Unfortunately, it's not always easy to know which foods are causing your inflammation. That's because inflammation manifests quietly. You might start to feel the symptoms once your body has become highly inflamed, but most of the time, you'll just notice a muffin top forming around your middle a day after you ate a mitochondria-inhibiting food and figure it's because you haven't gone to the gym in a while. What you can't see is the muffin top of inflammation forming in your brain. Instead, you'll experience symptoms that seem completely unrelated to your doughy midsection. You might become easily irritated and get snippy with the people you care about the most. I've said some of the worst things to my family, Dave Asprey has, when food or toxins disrupted his mitochondria and made the emotional processing part of his brain less effective. He's a peaceful guy, except when his energy production systems are poisoned. Then he's kind of a jerk. To make things even more complicated, some people's immune systems are more sensitive to certain foods than others. You may not even realize that you have sensitivities to some of the foods you eat on a regular basis. This is why he recommends seeing your doctor for a food allergy blood panel. You can get that through something called the Cyrex Array. There's another simple test that can show you exactly what foods may be an issue for you. While a blood test is the gold standard, there's a free option. It is less accurate, but it's still a helpful hack. When you eat a food you're sensitive to, your heart rate increases by about 17 beats per minute within 90 minutes of eating your food. So if you're going to eat something that you think might be causing a problem, take your heart rate before a meal and several times after, looking for a big increase. If your heart rate is substantially higher, you may have found a guilty suspect. He has a free smartphone app called Bulletproof Food Detective that helps you with this test. And I actually just happened to post about the Bulletproof Food Detective app at Dr. John DeWitt on Facebook. You can check that out there. It's at DRJ DeWitt, DeWitt, if you want to follow me on Facebook. That will show you where you can get that. In the meantime, there are some foods that cause inflammation in nearly everyone. You should avoid these foods as much as possible because they always cause problems. You may not feel the impact until a day after an exposure, so it's often hard to connect cause with effect. Here are the top offenders. Trans fats. Trans fats are born when hydrogen is added to liquid vegetable oils to make them more stable. Food manufacturers like to use these fats in their products because they have a longer shelf life than other fats. Trans fats also form in restaurant fryers over time. That's fryers, in case you didn't hear that R there. Unfortunately, trans fats wreak havoc in your body and are your brain's nemesis. Trans fats change the composition of mitochondria and build up inside the mitochondrial matrix as they are metabolized. They also lead to inflammation in your brain and cause your immune system to become overactive. Consumption of trans fats has been linked to a host of illnesses, including cancer, dementia, Alzheimer's, liver damage, infertility, and depression. Of course, those are all mitochondrial disorders. Many countries have begun to crack down on trans fats, but they're still found in tons of products, particularly baked goods, fried foods, non-dairy creamers, potato chips, and margarine. And they're abundant in fried foods from restaurants, even though they're not listed on the label of the fryer oil. These are all foods that you should avoid like the plague. Your mitochondria may not work properly for several days after you eat trans fat, so it's not okay to cheat on this one. Dairy products. Milk is basically made up of three components besides water: protein, sugar, and fat. When people are sensitive to dairy, it's usually the sugars or proteins that are affecting them. You've probably heard of lactose, the main sugar in dairy products. If you are lactose intolerant, you're missing lactase, the enzyme that your body needs to digest lactose. If you are lactose intolerant and still choose to consume dairy products, you'll experience systemic inflammation and weakness every time you have a glass of milk or a scoop of ice cream. But even people who are not lactose intolerant are often sensitive to the main protein in dairy products, which is called casein. Casein has a similar molecular structure to gluten, and people who are sensitive to one are often also sensitive to the other. In many people, casein breaks down into casomorphin, which binds to the opiate receptors in your brain and makes you feel sedated. Even worse, milk protein isolates are common ingredients in popular keto or low-carb protein bars. This is not what you want in a highly performing brain. Casein also is discussed in the book The China Study, which found casein is one of the biggest cancer causers out there. So avoid casein at all costs. Milk protein causes inflammation, which lowers mitochondrial function. Milk protein also binds to the good-for-you polyphenols in your diet, like the ones found in your coffee. It makes them unavailable to your body and your mitochondria. When you put milk protein isolates and casein into your coffee by adding milk, half and half cream or other creamers, the polyphenols become 3.4 times less absorbable in your body. Same thing happens if you use black coffee to wash down a milk protein-based keto protein bar. So not only does milk protein directly change your mitochondria for the worse, it also prevents you from absorbing the nutrients that can repair and strengthen your mitochondria. I know what you're probably thinking. Isn't butter made from milk? Yes, technically butter is a dairy product, except that butter contains almost no milk protein. A tablespoon of grass-fed butter has 0.1 grams of milk protein and almost no lactose. Cultured butter has even less than that, and ghee, which is clarified butter, has microscopically small amounts. Better yet, animal studies show that the short-chain fat found in butter, which is butyric acid, causes an increase in mitochondrial function and biogenesis. That's why he uses butter instead of milk in Bulletproof Coffee and why it's a part of the Headstrong program. Milk protein is bad for your mitochondria. Milk sugar is still sugar, but milk fat, that's what does a body good. Gluten, unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably heard that gluten, the protein found in wheat, causes digestive stress for many people. It's estimated that 3 million Americans have a gluten allergy called celiac disease, and up to 18 million have gluten sensitivity, but gluten affects us all. When you consume foods that contain gluten, such as bread, pasta, and cereal, your body is prompted to release a protein called zonulin, which controls the space between the cells that line your digestive tract. Gluten prompts an over-release of zonulin, which pushes these cells farther apart, allowing pathogens to slip through the protective barrier of your gut lining, leading to a condition known as leaky gut syndrome. The result, you guessed it, inflammation. Gluten also reduces blood flow to the brain and interferes with thyroid hormones. You need to create ATP, maintain healthy myelin, and have healthy mitochondria. This is true for all of us, not just those who are allergic to gluten, and it can lead to problems with learning, focus, and memory. So what if you already have mitochondrial dysfunction? That's a good question, and that will be discussed tomorrow on the Brain Builders podcast. I am your host, Dr. John DeWitt. Thanks for listening. Tell your friends. Give me a review in there. And I just appreciate everything you're doing. And I'm actually going to get on the keto diet myself personally. I will be tracking that in my Facebook page, Dr. John DeWitt, which is Dr. J. DeWitt, like I said, on Facebook. And we'll be posting videos and updates just to let you know what I'm trying, what works, what doesn't work. and we will go from there. Have a phenomenal day and a wonderful Halloween.